Today we'll be learning about Microsoft Excel, and our lesson for today is functions. So guys, let's talk about functions. Now, what are exactly functions and what we will do in today's session? So during this lesson we will be talking about functions. We will be talking about the types of functions which are available for us. We will be using them in practical scenarios. We'll be looking at their application, and then let me tell you about us. Functions in Microsoft Excel are known as predefined formulas which can perform calculations by using arguments or parameters in a particular order or a structure. So what it basically means is functions are there to easen up your life. So what are the types of functions which we will be learning throughout this lesson? So throughout this lesson we'll be talking about logical functions which will help you to implement some logic into your spreadsheet, mathematical functions which will help you to perform calculations upon your data, and then we'll be talking about text function which will relate to texts in Microsoft Excel. So if you are wondering right now that you don't have absolutely no idea about Microsoft Excel, don't worry, hang out with us. We'll get back to the lesson right now. Okay, here I have a small example which I have created for this demonstration. In here we have the figures of sales of a particular company which has been made throughout 3 months. So in this F column right here we have a field named total sales, which means we have to get the summation of each month sales into this field. So in order to do that, we need, or we can use, a function. Now the function which we will be using for this operation will be known as a mathematical function. So let me start off by using this mathematical function. So we need to perform a summation, therefore we will be using the function sum. So inside the function sum we need to include two parameters. The first one is we can include two parameters. So the first one being a cell number and the second one being a cell number, which in turn adds them or gets the summation of both cells individually. Or what we can do in this instance, we need the summation of 3 individual cells. Therefore we can include the cell range of that particular order that we need to get the answer from. So in here we need to get the sales of January, February and March of the item index 10. So as you guys can see, when I entered that particular cell range into the sum, what I got was the answer, or the total number of sales which are made in these 3 months. So in general, what Excel did is it automatically filled up all of the relevant columns in my table by using the same function. Now if you go through them one by one, you can see that the fields does not change but the rows do. So in the top we have C2 until E2, and then on the second one we have C3 until E3, so on and so forth. It moves on. Now let's quickly move on to the second function that we will be learning today. In here we'll be looking at the average function. Now the average function in here resembles the average of the sales which were made in this company in these 3 months. So in a mathematical manner, if we think about the average, Now average resembles to the total divided by the total number of months there are. So in no like avoiding that mathematical calculation, what we can use is we can use the function average to perform this task. Just as before, the average function takes in the cell range as its parameter. So the cell range which we will be providing for this parameter will be the exact same as before, C2 until E2. Once we press enter, the average will be calculated and presented to us there. Now as you guys can see, within functions in Excel, the case sensitivity is not there. So you can use either capitals or simples. It doesn't really matter for your operations. So far we have covered up mathematical functions. Now as you guys know, there are lots and lots of functions available for us in Excel in mathematics only. But today we thought that we will be looking at some other functions as well. Now here I have an example for logical functions. Now in here, as you guys can see, I have added another column for my table. Now what I have done different is, now I have added a type of sales to our example data. Now if the sales were made online, the type will be online. If the sales were made through human relations, it will be named as HR. So in here, in this G field, we have something called online total sales, which means whenever the sales were made online, we have to calculate the total. And whenever we have made sales through HR, we don't need to take the total number of sales. So you can do it by individual checking out each field, but that's not an easy task. If we think about a large number of data, that's not an easy task. So what you can do is you can utilize a logical function to perform this task. Now this logical function for this task which I will be utilizing is the if function available for us in Excel. So the if function accepts a logical test followed by the value if it turns out to be true, and then next we have the value if it turns out to be false. So my logical function will be if the F2 cell is online. Let me write that up. If the F2 cell equals online. Right now what I'm saying is I'm telling Excel to check the F2 cell whether it contains the string value which is online. Now if it contains online, what it need to do is it need to get the sum. Note how I am using a function which I have shown you previously. Notice how I am using a function which I have used previously. By using this sum function, we will be getting the summation of C2 through E2 whenever the column F or the type is online. And then I'll be passing a third parameter which is an empty string. Why is that? Whenever the value is false, whenever the value of the type column is not online, I don't need to get a total number of sales. So therefore I'll be leaving it as an empty string just as seen here. So when I press enter, now I can clearly see the total number of sales will be 44 for this column. Now what I will be doing is I'll be using the fill handle function in order to fill handle all of the rest of the columns available for me in this table. So as you guys can see, whenever the type is online, the total number of sales will be recorded inside this online total number of sales. And then whenever the type is HR, the total number of sales will be empty. Now there is another way for you to perform this function. This is a combination of both logical and mathematical functions. So the function which we'll be utilizing is SUMIF. So by using SUMIF, we'll be telling Excel to check for wherever there's an instance we'll be telling Excel to search for wherever there's an instance called HR. So as you guys can see, in here we can use another type of function which is available for us in Excel. Now this function is a combination of the previous two functions which we talked about. That is the mathematical functions and logical functions. By using them in combination, we'll be able to perform a task where it will take 3 parameters and it will spit out the result that we want. Now the 3 parameters which here I am passing in are the parameters which will contain the logical operation, and then the result that I require, and then the mathematical range which is in turn give me the result which I want. So when I press enter, now as you guys can see, whenever the type is HR, I will get the sum of the sales. So moving on to the third type of function that we have, the text functions. Now in here I have 2 columns named code names and code names 2. So in code names, the first 2 characters of this code name are constant and numerical. So if I want to remove these first 2 integers, what I can do is I can say that I just want to isolate the 3 characters starting from the right side of this text. So what I'll be using is the function write. Now as you guys can see, what I have done here is I have used the function write and then passed in the specific cell name and then the number of characters which I want to isolate. So when I enter this, I'll get the result as it is. So in the next one, in the code names 2, the 2 characters coming from the right side are constant and they are alphabetical. So what I want to do now is I want to isolate the numerical values which are starting from the left side. So the function which I'll be using for this one will be left, and again I'll be passing in the cell number, and then I'll be passing in the number of characters which I want to isolate. So the cell number is D2 and the number of characters are 2, and then when I passed it, okay, I'll be receiving the number of characters which I need to get isolated. So guys, now this is the end of our small lesson. I hope you did enjoy. Now guys, this is the end of our small lesson for today. Now, if you would like to know more about these stuff, what you guys can do is you guys can check out us on Facebook and any type of social media there is. So if you need to learn more about Excel, Word and a lot of things, we do offer a diploma in information technology in SJ Tutor. Now you guys should go ahead and check out the link in the description to know more about the details of this course. So thank you for listening guys. See you in the next video.